I'm in the Old Oaks neighborhood attending a monthly porch party. It's a great way for me to get to know the residents and the neighborhood a little better. David Gray is the president of their neighborhood association and has lived in this neighborhood for over 20 years. These great porch parties in Old Oaks, how did they start? How long have they been going on? How do you organize them?
Well, it started about 20 years ago. My wife wanted to organize some of the neighbors to get together on porches and make it low-key. Meeting on the porch meant that you didn't have to worry about cleaning the house, and you could just have people come over for lemonade and cookies, and start after work on a Wednesday from 7 to 9, and just kind of took off from there. I didn't think it would be a great idea, but I gotta say I was totally wrong, because now we actually have a waiting list for people who sign up for it. But we ask people that if they've hosted before, if they wait till other people have a chance.
Is it strictly social, or do you actually conduct business?
We wanted it not to be business. We have a civic association that deals with that, and sometimes business issues can be contentious. We wanted this to be really just relaxed and ask how your day was going.
Well, having been privileged enough to attend one or two, I have to say it is the friendliest, warmest, most diverse group of neighbors I've met anywhere in the city.
Well, that means a lot, because I think when you listen to the media or read what's happening in the country today, you would think that everybody seems to be very divisive. But I think our neighborhood is an anomaly to that, and I like to think that all neighborhoods are like ours. I'm not sure if they are or not, but we certainly have a wide spectrum of backgrounds here, and everybody gets along and respects one another's opinions, and it's just a great neighborhood to live in.
David, tell me a little bit about the history of the neighborhood. Where does the term Old Oaks come from, and what kind of a neighborhood was this when it was being built?
I believe that it's a made-up name when they became a historic district in the late 1980s. The history of the neighborhood is very interesting. Livingston Avenue, when it was electrified, enabled people not to have to live right above their shop or within walking distance of where they worked. They could actually live in what they called the suburbs. This was really the suburbs, and it was one of Columbus's first suburbs, because then they could get on the electrified streetcar, which was streetcar number 1, and oddly enough, it's still Coda Bus line number 1. So people from German Village who lived above their shop could actually live out here and get rid of the crampedness of German Village, which is odd, because what we find quaint and very much attractive about German Village now was not so great back then. Houses were close, it was cramped, and the river probably didn't smell so well either, so they wanted to get away from that.
So who would have lived here then?
Well, certainly a lot of Germans, and there was German Catholics, and they built the Holy Rosary St. John Church on Ohio, and there was also German Jewish people that came here, and they certainly would have been upper class. The fellow who built this house was Gebhard Jaeger, who invented the cement mixer.
When did the neighborhood start to change?
I think like most neighborhoods across America, right after the war, with all the people coming back, they had to have housing, and they wanted newer housing, and so they kept moving further out into the suburbs, which kind of depleted what you had in the urban core of Columbus. And then the houses were so big that some of them were chopped up to boarding houses or rental houses, and the decay kind of started from there.
Were there also racial divides as to when people could find housing? Was this, for instance, an all-white neighborhood at some point in the 20s, as many Columbus neighborhoods were? Mm-hmm. And when did that start to change, where there's a diversity of people?
Well, unfortunately, again, like every city across the country, I believe they did have that, where you had, and I'm not sure what the technical name is, but you could only sell to certain people.
The deed restrictions.
Yes, and unfortunately, that did not include minorities to be able to buy these houses. That particular changed when they put the highway in, and I talked to some of the people who were brought up here in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and said that in a matter of a couple of years, when they put the highway in, you had the white flight, and it changed from a white neighborhood to a minority neighborhood in just the course of a couple of years in the early 60s.
Ohio Representative Herschel Craig grew up in the Old Oaks neighborhood and tells the story about how jobs and affordable housing stabilized the neighborhood. So tell me about your connection to the neighborhood and how you started here.
My mother moved here in the middle 60s. It was a very mixed community in many ways.
The neighborhood began to change when you would come back from college?
Over time. But here's the thing. My mother literally could walk to a job. The Xerox Corporation owned a a boundary plant. There were a number of other factories and work locations on this site. When the industry began to shift, when the economy began to change, it began to shift in many ways what the community looked like. What I'm also deeply concerned about is this issue about affordable housing. And making sure that we have balance in terms of homeowners and those that have to rent to provide for their families.
Do you think our best bet is to have these conversations at a neighborhood level with other people about affordable housing? Or are we looking to the elected officials to try to find programs that help relieve this?
Well, I think both. I don't think elected officials should be making decisions in a vacuum or a silo. So I spend an awful lot of time with our civic associations, our area commissions, and listening to them. These folks every month are invested in these communities, come out and make sure that have conversations about affordable housing, our education for their children, and employment opportunities.
This neighborhood is now attracting a new generation of homeowners. Pamela Wachowski and Brandon Wilburn recently purchased the neighborhood's most famous home, a house built in the 1850s by Carolyn Brown, an emancipated slave.
We found this home listed and had such an interest in it just because it was beautiful and had all this history, and we took a look at it and loved it, and then it was just a bonus that the neighborhood was such a great place.
I think the porch gatherings are fantastic. They're such a wonderful way to meet neighbors, see old faces, see new faces. There's always people coming into the neighborhood and moving in, and so it's just a great way to know who is living next door to you. Not only that, but a lot of people also have older homes, the similar age homes, and they've also undertaken projects that you might want to be undertaking yourself, and so you can reach out to them and ask them, how do I do something?
It's something different that I haven't experienced in other Columbus neighborhoods. Even living over in German Village for a while, I'd wave at the neighbors, but I didn't know them by their first name. I didn't know about their jobs, their children, or what they might be working on.
What's the prognosis for the neighborhood now?
Well, I think it's to the point where it's the tipping point where there's a lot of people here that have a sense of community, and they keep adding to that. And that's a good thing. So I see the neighborhood as far as having younger people and who are even having their children, and instead of moving away when they have children, choosing to bring their children up here in the neighborhood, and those are good things.
It's a lovely neighborhood with great gardens and friendly people.
Truly, it's going in the right direction, and we all appreciate that. And the nice thing is that I think people are sensitive to the downside of when a neighborhood starts to improve, and we try very hard to help people.